The Pacific Ocean is calm below, stretching in every direction as a small aircraft follows a thin line across open water. The radio crackles, then fades. Amelia Earhart and her navigator are flying toward a tiny island, yet their final position cannot be fixed and no confirmed distress call follows. In 1937, during an attempt to fly around the world, one of the most famous pilots of her time vanished without a trace. I am Harris Ali Khan, and you are watching Harris Files. In this video, we examine what is known about Amelia Earhart's last flight, the timeline of events, the evidence recovered, and the leading theories that have emerged, as well as the unanswered details that continue to keep this case open. It was 1937, over the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Amelia Earhart, already a household name in aviation, was attempting a daring round-the-world flight. The sky stretched endlessly above, and below, nothing but water met the horizon. In the cockpit of her Lockheed Electra, instruments offered limited guidance. Navigating long distances over open water was challenging, relying on rudimentary tools and calculations that left little room for error. The hum of the engines and the occasional wind gust were constant companions as the plane pressed steadily toward distant islands. At a time when transoceanic flights were still dangerous and relatively untested, every mile carried uncertainty. I am Harris Ali Khan, and you are watching Harris Files. Experts note that flights like this were inherently risky, even for the most skilled pilots. Amelia Earhart had built her reputation through record-setting flights and public appearances that inspired millions. By 1937, she was accompanied by Fred Noonan, a seasoned navigator familiar with long overwater routes whose skill would be crucial for the Pacific crossings. Aviation in the 1930s relied on limited instruments, visual cues, and radio signals that were often unreliable across vast oceans. The Lockheed Electra she piloted was advanced for its time, yet still constrained by range and fuel capacity. Their flight plan aimed to circle the globe with careful stops along key islands, and they had successfully completed several legs before the Pacific crossing. Even so, subtle signs suggested challenges ahead. Weather patterns, mechanical limits, and logistical complexities could all pose serious threats. Contemporary records and news reports provide insight into these conditions, though they must be considered within the context of the era and public expectations. On July 2, 1937, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan departed from Lae, New Guinea, heading toward Howland Island, a small target in the vast Pacific. Their course was precise on paper, but over open water, navigation relied heavily on celestial observations and radio bearings. Throughout the flight, Earhart made intermittent radio transmissions, reporting estimated positions and fuel status. Weather conditions included scattered clouds and unpredictable winds, complicating calculations and making visual sightings of the island increasingly difficult. The last confirmed message came hours later, indicating that they could not locate Howland Island and were running low on fuel. Ground stations and support crews immediately noted the unusual delay and growing uncertainty. Conflicting interpretations of radio signals and positions emerged, leaving search planners unsure where to focus. Aviation experts highlight that even minor navigational errors could produce vast discrepancies over this route, a factor that made the disappearance unusually challenging for conventional search methods. Following the disappearance, the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard launched an extensive search across hundreds of thousands of square miles of the Pacific. Ships and aircraft scoured islands and open water following the last known radio bearings. Despite days of coordinated effort, no confirmed wreckage was located and no survivors were found. Official reports concluded that Earhart and Noonan likely ran out of fuel and went down at sea, though the exact location remained unknown. At the time, navigational technology and mapping were limited, and ocean currents and remote geography further complicated efforts. Discrepancies between reported positions, eyewitness sightings, and assumed flight paths created confusion that the search could not resolve. Experts note that even with the resources deployed, the combination of navigational uncertainty, limited technology, and the vast search area meant that investigators were essentially operating without firm coordinates, leaving the case unresolved from the start. Several explanations have been proposed to account for Amelia Earhart's disappearance, each with supporting details and challenges. The crash and sink theory suggests that the plane ran out of fuel near Howland Island and went down in the ocean, leaving no recoverable wreckage. This is supported by radio transmissions reporting low fuel and failed attempts to locate the island, but it leaves questions about why no debris was ever found. Another possibility is the Gardner Island or Nikumaroro hypothesis, which proposes that Earhart and Noonan may have landed on the atoll and survived for a time as castaways. Evidence includes anecdotal reports of artifacts and skeletal remains, though nothing has been definitively linked to them. A brief consideration of Japanese capture suggests the plane may have ended up under foreign control during a period of regional tensions, though documentation is limited and inconclusive. Finally, navigation errors or fuel miscalculations could have forced the aircraft off course, compounding the likelihood of a remote crash. Modern experts weigh each scenario, noting that while some are plausible, contradictions in flight records, environmental data, and eyewitness reports prevent a single definitive explanation. Amelia Earhart's final flight remains one of aviation's most enduring mysteries. Despite extensive searches and decades of investigation, no confirmed remains or wreckage have been recovered. Questions linger about the exact location of the aircraft, the timing of its last transmissions, and the final moments of the flight. The case has influenced aviation safety, prompting improvements in navigation, radio communication, and emergency planning for long-distance flights. Earhart's story continues to capture public and scholarly attention, both as a symbol of early aviation achievement and as a study in the limits of exploration over vast remote areas. Experts emphasize that the combination of incomplete data, technological limitations of the time, and the vastness of the Pacific ensures that her disappearance remains unresolved. The mystery invites reflection, not speculation, highlighting the challenges of transoceanic flight and the enduring human fascination with unsolved events.